right, so thanks everyone. Thanks for joining and coming in. This is the first of many, at least four. We'll say four for right now. So the first of four sessions we'll have with Men of Color, Black Men in Cyber, brought to you by BIC. So thank you all for the continued support. I'm Moshe Bowens. I'm one of the guests that'll be, or one of the hosts that'll be walking through and kind of guiding us on this journey. We also have Garrison Best. He's somewhere in there. Garrison, want to say hi? He's around somewhere. But
hey, how are you guys doing?
Awesome. But yeah, we had numerous individuals actually volunteer for this, which is great to see. There was like a huge amount of support, which is awesome. So I think what we'll do is we'll let the guests kind of run down, give a quick intro of themselves. We can kick it off. We'll kick it off with Socks. I'm going to give a quick 1-2 minute intro. Who you are, what you work on, name, sign, romantic interest, all that good stuff.
Well, hi, how you doing? I'm Nico Smith. My call sign Socks. I've been really lucky and fortunate to be identified as the BIC CTF and Red Team Operations Director. So what I've been focusing on is not only bettering my skills and increasing my proficiency, but leveraging different social platforms in order to increase knowledge and to create stronger, smarter, better users out there. It's a really great opportunity here, and I'm happy that we met at these crossroads where I could use my talents to go forth and continue to do great things for our community.
Nice. Happy to have you. Mr. Jason.
Hey, I'm Jason Abdul. I'm a cybersecurity engineer for Booz Allen. So right now, I've been doing a whole bunch of DevSecOps stuff. So just basically supporting, a federal client, securing their system. It's basically automating the infrastructure, that kind of thing. So it's good to be here and share my experiences. Quite new in terms of, a career in cyber, but, I'm happy to share what I've learned so far. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Happy to have. I know we got Marcus here somewhere. Can go, but Marcus?
Yes, sir. My name is Marcus Bowie. I am a cybersecurity engineer for supporting the Department of Energy with a focus of reverse malware engineer and malware analysis. I've been around the BIC family since the beginning. I've been in all the conferences that they throw. This is a good opportunity for me to speak again. I'm happy to be here and be with this good crowd and the good panel that's represented here, and hopefully we can help you guys on your journey.
All right, thank you. Robert?
How you guys doing? I'm Robert Blackwell. I'm a cybersecurity program manager for CACI. Former engineer. I'm here to contribute to the panel. I like what BIC is doing, and I also like to mentor young folks that are trying to come into the environment. So just glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Joseph?
Evening, everyone. I'm Joseph Brown. I'm Director and Enterprise Security Architect for Hudson's Bay Company. We're the company that owns Saks Fifth Avenue, Saks Off Fifth, and a Canadian banner called The Bay. I focus on every aspect of security, and engineering, identity access management, architecting, make sure people don't put bad code out there. I mean, you name it, I have to make sure that people aren't doing it. So I'm just glad to be part of BIC. I'm new to it, so it's great to be a part of it. I've been doing cybersecurity for my entire career, which is 14 years. So it's great to be here.
Awesome. And I believe it was, we have oh, did Lawrence not make it? Okay, well, cool.
Say it again.
Oh, okay, you're there. I was like,
Hey. Yeah. I'm here. Hey guys, Lawrence Jenkins here. Can you hear me, Nick? Can you guys hear me?
You're good.
Okay. So Lawrence here, guys. Cybersecurity analyst I'm with American Express, and I'm on a team called Cyber Product Strategy. So we work within all 8 domains, researching new products out there and tools and services to answer any of the gaps that we have internally, stay abreast on the new threats in the markets and the new technologies that are there working against those threats. I found we have a heavy mandate. I started doing some research, and I recently found BIC, and I was really happy about it. And here I am today. From Philadelphia, Temple U.
Awesome. Well, Garrison, you want to intro for yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Garrison Best. I am a cybersecurity consultant at IBM. Been doing it for about 3 years. Main focus is cloud security, identity access management. So DC native, born and raised. Been with BIC since the start. I'm loving it. Definitely looking forward to what we have coming down the pipeline for you. And I'm the director of communications for Blacks in Cyber.
Yes, and a big hand in like putting all this together too. So thanks. And then I'm O'Shea Bowens or Sir Blood. Also work with BIC for training, helping organize training, and been in cyber pretty much my whole life. Right now, acting as CEO, NOHAD, and doing a bunch of blue teaming stuff. Something I should probably ask also, if you want to get in touch with any of the participants, we'll ask them to drop their LinkedIn and Twitters inside of chat. But if we can kind of hold questions towards the end, we definitely designated time. The last 30, 45 minutes are designated specifically for participants to ask questions. So if you're patient with us, it'll pay off. It'll pay off in the end. One of the questions I had was, do we have any current military or veterans that are on the panel right now? That's 1, 2. Okay. So one of the first questions is, and especially as you're in the military, but you could take this both ways, right? So either in the military, how did you pivot into either more working in cyber, or if you're, a veteran, how did you pivot how did you transition out and find your way in the private sector and then work your way into cybersecurity? I know, Socks, you kind of raised your hand first, so I'll let you get that one.
My name is Stephen Pullum. I went into the Air Force in 1984, pre-cyber. I did 27 years. I retired as a deputy program manager for the Office of Secretary of Defense, Global Information Assurance, Protecting the Gig, Global Information Grid. I did 17 reserves. So I also had a civilian career. Also Assistant Vice President of Bank of America, Director of Verizon Security Operations Center, and a lot more. I went into cyber actually in 1982, where I had my first computer was a Commodore 64. I was programming 88, 86s thereafter. I went to DeVry, programming Fortran, Pascal, pseudocode, and got into a little trouble by hacking into Chicago, and I went to the Air Force, whereas I went into EDP. My cyber career actually began there because I wrote the first virus in Northeast Texas. I belonged to the first hacking group ever on the planet called Cult of the Dead Cow. I love it. We used to read the 2600, and we had a competition with a group called Loft. We ended up making Loft crack. This is before the John Ripper days and stuff like that. So actually, when cyber was actually coined out of a book. EP, one of the first groups of Black individuals was the BDPA, Black Data Processing Association, which was formed by a lot of folks out of Texas Instruments. This was on Texas Instruments, and you had Radio Shack in the Tandy days, where I had a Trash 80. I worked at the time, mainframes, spare Unisys, Honeywells, Craze, and we migrated into mini computers, the Sun Spark stations. From there, you migrated into the 286s, 286s, SX, and 386s. Then the Pentiums, and that was my life. I've lived this history. Like I said, when I retired in 2012, I was the deputy program manager for Secretary of Defense, the whole global information grid. So I have a lot of questions about where cyber come from, where the cyber folks come from, where the cyber experts come from. Let me be derogatory, but what classifies as a cybersecurity specialist now? Because when we did it for the craft, for the fun of it. That's how we did it. We didn't do it for certs and money and stuff like that. We did it because it was fun. And so now all these folks are jumping into a field that, like me and Kevin Mitnick. You know who Kevin Mitnick is? Most famous hacker in the world. We're on first name basis. We talk all the time. Captain Crunch, the folks on Loft. It wasn't cybersecurity. It's never was cybersecurity. It was the craft. It's the love of it. A lot of folks get into it for the money now. I'll get some cybersecurity. I'll make a lot of money. When we did, it was no money. A pre-8088, a pre-8086 was $3,000. Nobody had them. So all you did was program on IBM DOS or PC DOS or IBM 3 or stuff like that. So where is cybersecurity today? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to me? Being that I'm one of the originators of this field. What does that mean, the cybersecurity expert? Because I promise you, there are sharks in that water, like me, who know all the cybersecurity stuff. We knew when it was Archie, Veronica, before Telnet and all this other stuff. Other protocols that y'all forgot. You forgot about Archie. I was chatting with, the first network I was on was called Autoden, Auto Digital Network. The military in the 70s was on the network. That's how they communicated. We were on board. We were chatting in Japan, all over to Europe. And I see my LinkedIn, and it's all there. I work for the NSA, the CIA, the NRO, maybe some more 3 letters. I worked for them all.
Hey, excuse me. Can you? We can follow back on this later in the call.
All right, one second. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely shout out to Culture Cut. That's definitely old school hacking. And I think Nick Sox, you had raised your hand too, so we want to give you some time.
Sure. Before I begin, I just want to stay on task. Could you re-ask the question?
Yeah, sure. So it was either if you're currently in the military, how did you transition into cyber while you're in the military, right? How did you find it? But also if you're a veteran and you transition out into private sector, how did you make your way into security?
Okay, thanks. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit of a unicorn in the sense of how I got into cyber regarding the military. I'm a National Guardsman. Currently involved in cyber, doing currently mobilized to defend the nation and to add skill sets that I acquired out in the civilian sector in defense of this nation. So I think it's pretty sweet, those gems that Mr. Pulliam shared with us. Me being a Chicago native, I started out like everyone else, help desk, worked my way through. I came up with a couple different neat solutions to some employers, developed a way to defeat USB drive-by, put it into production. My boss gave me a little bit of support. And unfortunately, due to the fact that I wasn't a programmer and I'm not a programmer now, it wasn't a scalable solution. That in turn gave me or opened up some doors where small infosec or security-minded engineers would allow me to sit on their teams or sit at least in an advisory or even a learning role. From there, what else? Gosh, again, like everyone else here, participating in DEF CON, going to your B-sides, doing what you can to kind of feed back to our culture. That's where I found myself as far as the cybersecurity realm exists. I was part of Hackerspace PS1 in Chicago, Southside Hackers in Chicago. So those were 2 groups that I participated with, and I owe a lot of my experience to. From there, working on different cybersecurity teams within private sector, using my National Guard opportunities as an intelligence officer. I am an intelligence officer who actually speaks cyber. So we get to merge the whole intel and cyber aspect in a way that helps future leaders leverage skill sets in a way that again goes forth to defend the nation. And on my side, on the side, I build CTF projects. I built my own infrastructure that people test and learn, get their skill sets up on, and that's where a lot of my where my opportunities came from. So if we want to cover or jump back on how cyber is shown inside the military, or how I got involved in cyber within the military. I was part of the initial group of individuals within the National Guard when they identified intelligence as a combat multiplier for the Signal Corps and ultimately to the Cyber Corps. So that's a little bit on my background.
Nice. And you work with Big too on the CTF
Correct.
side.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So another question would be, how do individuals think, corporations can kind of recruit more of us in cyber, right? Like you think about the numbers when it comes to representation and the number of individuals that are Black in cyber. Like, what are some of your thoughts on how do they, reach out and kind of communicate with us? We can kind of jump over to Joseph, kind of get your input there.
So that's a great question, because right now our companies, we just started diversity and inclusion, which I'm co-chair of.
Nice.
And so we just started asking these same questions. And one of the things we really, I brought up is starting early. So a lot of times, as people try to focus on getting to the colleges and et cetera, right? But the problem is that kids are learning technology earlier and earlier on, right? So why don't you try to go in early, get into the elementary and middle schools and really just start teaching them the basic stuff and the really cool stuff. Like I remember, the reason why I got involved in computers is because I used to take apart the remotes, and you know what? I didn't know how to put it back together. My first, computer was a Tandy 2000, right? And I took that thing completely apart, and my father, slapped the G's out of me, right? So, that type of stuff. But, people are so used to having like the iPads and all this other stuff. Getting them early on interested into the technology and getting that reach out, I think that's going to be huge, because that's why I got involved in technology, and then really, getting them involved early on. I think that's my big thing, reaching out earlier instead of trying to wait till it's too late or later on when they've already made up a mind or something.
That's awesome. I think you may be one of the only Black people I know in cyber that actually is on the diversity and inclusion. Like most of the time when I meet diversity and inclusion officers, I'm like, something's off here. Like,
if I can chime in addition to, because I think the question also pointed to, how corporations, advise on how corporations and the security industry can hire more Blacks. And I think from what I'm seeing internally with some of the stuff that I'm doing, getting involved with BIC, they're going to have to use channels that they normally don't go through to get candidates. And that's a huge push. I had a discussion with one of the directors the other day. Again, there's diversity, this push to get more people of color and Blacks involved in leadership. And so we're having these discussions. And one of my directors said, hey, I really don't see the candidates or get the candidates. Not that I don't want to. And I said, well, you have to look, you're going to have to go outside of the box. And corporations are going to need us internally to help them navigate, because there's a lot of corporations out there that have a very big push for diversity. And some may have diversity directors and they go to events and they get candidates. But when you're really looking for that grade of a candidate that's specifically for cybersecurity, which, we are missing in that area as far as people of color and leadership in cybersecurity, that's what they were going to have to do, is go outside the box, find organizations like BIC and wherever, and get that message out to get candidates that they normally just don't get in front of. And that's my small input.
I got it. I want to chime in on
Go
that.
ahead, Marcus. I'll answer after you.
Yeah, Marcus and Robert. Yeah, thanks.
there's two ways you can look at this. For companies, corporations, the security industry, if you want to get more Black people in, or any people in general, there's something called workforce development. Take your company to an underprivileged area, offer free training, and hire those people. If that doesn't work, then you have the other route. The other way you can look at it is, why not? I work in the government contract space, so I'm privy to a lot of things that go on inside that space that I should not be privy to. And one of which is like how the RFPs are written. The language in the RFPs make it hard for those who went out and got certs and degrees to even get in. And majority of the people that I see on Twitter are the ones who went out and got these degrees, but they're having a hard time getting put on. And that's because of how the RFPs are written. That is, I think, is the root cause to even get into government contracting type work, working for the government or as a contractor or as a govie, because of how that language is written. And so once you fix that issue, then companies can now pursue the diversity goal and bringing more people in. So I recommend going into underprivileged areas, start a program, train these people up, and then hire them from there. Or I'm a guy that like to create opportunities. I was able to start a cybersecurity company 2 months ago, and I'm in the process right now as working as a sub under that contract company for 2 potential contracts coming up. So if you want to create the opportunity instead of waiting for the opportunity, why not a group of folks who may have all the certs and degrees get together, create a company, and go after these contracts in the government that are giving these jobs away. So you can go that route. So it's 2 ways you can look at it. Instead of waiting on them to hire you, create your own opportunity.
Yeah, and I think with the RFP side too, that we can dive into that maybe later, but that's a whole other question, like understanding how those contracts are written, understanding how to apply, because it took me like years to really understand how to like adequately reply, because if it's not written correctly, it's gone. Like they toss it out within the first couple of minutes of reading it, right? Like it's not even gonna make it to the middle of the heap, let alone the top. So I think that's another kind of, it's almost a skill set in and of itself, to be honest. And Robert, I know you wanted to ping in.
Oh, yeah, Marcus covered a lot of it, but to his point, you want to create opportunities for them. I think a lot of times there's a lot of talent at some of the HBCUs that don't even get a look. With my company, we were doing hiring events at all the local schools, but we bypassed Bowie, Morgan State, some of the other schools, and there's a lot of talented folks that are there. We had to make a push to actually stop there and go. So I think tapping the HBCUs would help bring in some other folks, but I also think, like Marcus said, the folks that have had success already, we really need to start developing these folks early on, because I hire a lot of cybersecurity folks, and what I notice is, especially with us in color, we run away from the coding aspect of what we need to do, and that coding piece is huge when you respond to the RFPs and when you just do basic nuts and bolts. I think the term cybersecurity is so broad that we think if we have cybersecurity on our resume or a certification that's associated with it, you know, we're an expert, and that's not even the case. Like Marcus said on Twitter, you got some of these guys that haven't even finished high school, but are probably the top coders in the game. So I think it starts by groups like BIC that give them opportunities for us to create a platform and develop and train and move forward. And then those of us that are in seats where we have the ability to hire, we need to bring our own and hire. But they have to be qualified, but we need to mentor them and get them over that hump.
Yeah, I think that's a big one too. It's a lot of the. I got you. We got to go to the next question, Nick. It sucks. I see you though.
Oh,
but yeah,
man,
the
I was gonna
coding
add
aspect
on.
is huge. Anytime I hire a mentor, I always say like, at the minimum, start getting Python under your belt. Like, get at least one language kind of under your belt. Like, it's going to be harder in the future. We won't go into it now, but I've been saying this for like 3-4 years. I was like, it's going to be much harder in the next 5 years if you can't code. Like, it's going to make it really, really difficult to get in some of these jobs, especially when you think about sec DevOps and building out tool sets from scratch. A lot of government agencies, like, they don't allow product tools to come inside the environment, right? Like, they built it out. So if you can't build, like, it's going to be not impossible, but it's going to be difficult for sure.
Going through it right now.
What was that, Robert?
I said we're going through that right now, developing it from scratch. So, you know, when you go in those government gates, it's a whole different environment. So, yeah, open source stuff isn't going to work.
Yeah, and so we'll go to the next question to try to get everybody in. So, and this is kind of current based, right? So think about like what's happened over the last year or so, particularly in your life or your career. But is there a trend that exists right now in security that you wish wasn't a trend, right? Like for me, I hear like Sec DevOps sometimes or cloud security. I'm like, that's just basically engineering. But all right, we can call it 3 or 4 different things, but in reality, it's one thing. But this is something I definitely want to hear from you guys. So maybe Joseph, you can you can chime in.
Yeah, you kind of stole it from me. The DevSecOps thing really, I think that trend really bothers me. It's, kind of like a lot of it's engineering, right? To me, you just have to know how to apply engineering and security and do, as you said, coding, everything else. Cloud is a sexy word, right? It's a trend word that everybody wants to use and everything. And now DevOps became that word, and now they're putting DevSecOps. Or I actually got into a discussion with somebody because they're like, oh, it should be DevSecOps, no, SecDevOps. And that is not something I really care about. And I just did it just because they felt I was bored that day. So DevSecOps is probably the one thing I really, really hate. Like, I wish it would just go away and just call them security engineering. And it's just, the cloud is not magical. It's just someone else's computer. It's still engineering. It's just a different platform. If you can't tell, that bothers me a lot. So just get rid of that term altogether.
Jason, I see you back there now. You wanted to jump in?
I totally agree with Joseph. I actually didn't realize that it bothered me that much until he mentioned it. Like if you remember the sysadmin, right? I guess DevSecOps engineers are just basically the new sysadmins, right? The modern sysadmin. But I mean, what really bothers me is like some people would say like words are important, right? Don't say. I've seen people say DevOps Sec. They put security at the end because they're like, oh, shift left and apply security, backwards. But that's how the way things should be. So like me personally, I feel it should be Sec DevOps, right? Or just keep it DevSecOps and that securities and everything. But that's just how I feel about it. Yeah, but he's right. He has a point.
No, I totally agree. We got a couple more questions, so I'm gonna try to hit these so we can get that Q&A in. And this is kind of open to the group, right? But is there a book, either technical or non-technical, right, that you believe is kind of essential either to your journey or that you recommend individuals moving into cyber review, or at least have a once-over read? So this could be, any book. Doesn't have to be technical. It could be a management book. I know there's manager books that I read because when I was younger, I sucked at leading people, so I had to learn how to do that. There's other people that have done it for hundreds of years that have written about it. So why take the time to make my mistakes when I can, read about it? But this is something I definitely want to hear from the panel about.
I got a book. I'm a blue teamer. I love blue team. I'm probably going to stay blue team because I got a chip on my shoulder against the red team. But if you're a blue teamer in the SOC, you should get this book right here. What is it? The Blue Team Handbook by Don Murdoch. I don't know if y'all can see that. This is like the second edition. It is like everything you need to know at like the 50,000 view level and can drill down into. This is what you need. Once you get this down, then you can go into the weeds, as further as you want to go, take it as far as you want to go. But I think this touches on every aspect of SOC work if you're trying to get into the SOC space. So this is the book I recommend.
I would say, people who don't know what the SOC means, can you just tell them what the definition is, that SOC?
SOC is Security Operations Center. So in most cases, when your first foot in the door may sometimes be the SOC work. And you're just basically in a call center, type call center for cybersecurity. But you're analyzing alerts, you're going through emails, and you're responding to events and incidents. So that's what SOC stands for, Security Operations Center.
It's the fun house, basically.
Yes.
Anyone else want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think the CISSP, the CyberX book, is a good book as well. When I was studying for the CISSP, I had like 3 or 4 different books. That one is a thick book. It's intimidating, but it's probably like one of the best reads if you're really trying to take that certification. I think one of the writers is actually attending this meeting right now as well. So it's definitely a good read if you guys going down that route.
I have one, and it's called Ready, Fire, Aim. Completely non-cyber. But a lot of the things that we talked about earlier were about coming together, being entrepreneurial, getting out front. And I believe that our culture is affected sometimes with imposter syndrome. And I think we see these job opportunities and we don't apply for them because we believe that we're not good enough to apply for those things. And what Ready, Fire, Aim does, or what they speak about inside the book, is more about just going forth and identifying what you want as a group and then targeting in. So you don't have to be so specific when we start talking about cybersecurity and how wide and broad it can be. Just understanding that you don't have to be the master of everything. It's okay to understand what it's made up from, and from there you can dial in what you need.
That's a good one too. All right. So I know we have a mixture of, we already went into it, red and blue. It sounds like a gang warfare, but we got some red teamers and blue teamers here. So I'd love to hear, this is kind of a big one for me, but I'd love to hear your opinion on what skills or knowledge areas you think are critical to kind of exist, just, in either one of those two, or, to occupy a role within cyber, right? So think about it from the perspective that you're moving up in your career. So from junior to, managing partner, senior manager, executive, whatever, director, whatever it may be, right? What are some of the skills you think are critical? And this could be technical and non-technical. I say communications a lot, but I'd love to hear some input there.
Oh,
I have some. Oh, go ahead.
Critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills above and beyond everything. The ability to look at something and then start to break it down, dissect, and you're not going to know the answer to everything. It's impossible, right? But if you can logically work your way from point A to point B, even when tossed into an environment that you're unfamiliar with, critical thinking skills will save you. That's all I have.
I'd say the desire to learn. Things in this field move really quickly. If you go on vacation for a year, you come back, you'll probably be behind. So it's very important to brush up on topics, keep learning, and keep doing, applying those skills. So yeah.
I say operational skills and soft skills. Operational meaning hands-on experience, and the reason why I say hands-on experience is because that gets you to the next level. I see a lot of resumes posted with degrees and certs, but you don't have listed the hands-on piece, and sometimes you may get overlooked because of that. So hands-on experience is important. Linux, definitely Linux, which is right now tearing up everything. Python, we talked about that. You definitely need to know some type of code. So that's hands-on, along with other things in the particular area that you want to go into. But also you need soft skills. I know a lot of people that are very, 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 very smart, but they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't have that. They don't know how to win people over. So that could be a career limiting move for yourself as well. And a lot of positions you can get without the skill set if you just know how to talk or know how to communicate. So those are the two skills I recommend anybody should get.
It's actually funny you say that, because going into the next question was really, and we spoke. I think this is, while we were planning this is one of the questions we spent the most time kind of diving into. But are we being realistic with the expectations for individuals coming into the cyber, right? I know for myself, I hire a lot of people, I do a lot of training, but I look at some resumes and it's man, this dude's a killer. You got 8 certs, a master's degree, and I'm like, okay, cool. Walk me through fields 3 through 8 of a packet, and they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, wait, what? And this happened. This has personally happened to me a lot. This is it's kind of nuts to see this from a managing perspective. So that's an automatic disqualifier for me. But you have to take a step back as a manager or a leader and say what is what's represented in this rec realistic for people to obtain, right? So I know it's something I ask myself, but I'd love to hear the feedback from the panel.
Yeah, so I have to hire people like you do. So I go less technical and more on what people I want to see that they have a base, but you know what? I would rather take someone that has the drive, that's willing to step out of their comfort zone, someone that is going to do the research and that shows that passion. You can generally show you can generally see that passion from somebody than somebody that just got into the field because someone told them that they should get into cyber. I'd rather have that person and then build them up, which I've done several times over my career, than taking somebody that has all those certs. Those certs are great. That's nice. That means you can take a test. I have the CISSP. I also write CISSP questions, for the exam. So that's nice. But I'd rather have somebody that has none of those, but does things on the side and actually wants to pursue things and wants to work hard. That's what I look towards.
I actually like that, Joe. I mean, because to be frankly honest, the way that these job descriptions are written, one, they intimidate some of the candidates that are applying for it. And two, I mean, what are the odds of finding that exact match each and every time that you go out and look? So like you said, a willingness to learn, that's always a number one in my book, because I wasn't the guy I am today 10 years ago, and no one in this room. We all started somewhere. Somebody all helped us, and we all developed along the way. So I think I definitely echo what you guys are doing with that. I do the same thing in my hiring as well.
It's Stephen and Lawrence, I'd love to hear your thoughts here, because I know you guys been in the game a little bit longer than us. So what are you thinking?
So for sure, definitely. But you also have to think out. I'm always using this term, thinking out of the box. One, showing that drive, showing the passion. But there's other avenues and gateways. It's interesting. I thought that this was a great segue into your last question about, some of the barriers that you face in getting into cybersecurity or in cybersecurity. And, while I was going down one route, moving from what we call the technology concierge, where I was a service delivery engineer, trying to make my way in cybersecurity, I found out that there was this cyber product strategy team that actually covered all of the different areas from a high level, but was much more of a better fit. So looking for opportunities that are not necessarily technical, really finding out what a company has in their cybersecurity departments and what else is out there to get your foot in to use your gifts to get your foot in the door. So there's other avenues and there's other ways to get into cybersecurity without racking your brain from a technical perspective. And that's something that no one ever really talks about, which I found out in my own company.
Yeah, I think product management, product development could be one of those areas, right? That's one of the I think that's one of the areas we don't really talk about too much in cyber, because we're all we want to reverse engineer, we want to break some stuff. But I'm if you know how to sell a product, you can feed into product development, things like that. That's a killer skill to have.
Especially now with everyone going agile, where using Jira, there's and on these teams they have product owners and product managers and people that run just the Jira projects, but you're in cybersecurity. So there's many different avenues, and that's just kind of what I wanted to press upon.
No, thanks. Yeah, thank you for that. So I know we got about 20 minutes left. I'm gonna ask one more question, and I want everyone to kind of chime in on this one, and then we can go to the audience, because I have the feeling the audience is going to have a few different, generous amount of questions for us. But if this doesn't apply to you, feel free to just say it. Don't feel pressured. It may not apply to everyone. But in your career, specifically as men of color and Black men, has there been any barriers that you face? And if you have faced those, how did you overcome those? Right. So we can, we'll start with Marcus and come back and all the way back with Stephen.
There are 4 barriers that I face jumping into the cybersecurity realm. The first one is bad management. You're on a job where you need help and the manager doesn't even know how to do it. So you got that issue. The second one is that you're on a bad contract. I've been in a bad contract where they hired me as a button in seat, but the contract was up 2 months after. So that's another barrier. The third barrier is no on-the-job training. So you want to learn as a tier 1, you want to get to tier 2 or tier 3, but the tier 2s don't want to train you. They don't got time for you. Or they don't want to train you because they feel like you're going to take their slot. And then the tier threes don't have time. The tier threes are doing other things. So there's no on-the-job training. And the last barrier that I faced going in was there was no training budget. So I'm working at a nice place, but they're not sending people who just get into training. You have to go through a lot of hoops and a lot of approvals to even get considered for training. So those 4 areas, I believe everybody's going to run into at some point when they jump into the cybersecurity realm. And how I got over it was that I took it at home, and I stay hungry. I didn't let these things. I was always a go-getter, so there's always ways to get. Again, I like to create opportunities. I studied at home. I was able to stay up. Listen, I work 8 hours a day, and I go home and I work for myself 8 hours. I'm studying stuff. I'm learning new things. I'm downloading these tools. I'm getting that skill set that I'm missing at work. I'm YouTube. YouTube University is the best university in the world right now. So I'm learning that stuff there, but I'm also applying myself when I get to work the next day. And that's how I grew. And I still use those tactics till today. So that's a way to, those are the barriers that you're going to run into, but that's a way to stay relevant and stay hungry and get past those barriers. Is to stay hungry and to do the work at home, study at home, learn the stuff at home. So that's what helped me.
Yeah, that's crazy solid advice. Jason?
Well, as someone who's just recently got into my career, one of the barriers is, those ridiculous years of experience requirements. Oh, you have to have, X amount of experience before, you get into security. So that was kind of an issue in the beginning, right? Where it was like, oh, it seems like even with a bachelor's in IT, concentration in cybersecurity, it was like, oh, you have to have, this number of years of experience, even knowing that, I have the degree, or I just, became a recent graduate. But it seems like the roadblock was like, oh, just take this help desk position and eventually, try to get yourself to that security position. But, in the end, I think, whatever you have to do to get your foot in the door, even if you have to start from, help desk, everyone has to start from somewhere. So, for me, that was one of the barriers.
Robert?
So some of those same barriers that Jason talked about, I went into my career right out of high school. So for a long time, I was always the youngest, and I didn't have a college degree at the time. So I would work, study certs on my free time. I eventually did get my degree, and, things balanced out. So that was a struggle for a long time, being told no when you know that, you have the ability to go out there and actually do the work. Another struggle working in like a government environment, they don't always take the best technical direction. It's always about mission or operation or whatever it may be. And I see everybody shaking their head because they know what I'm talking about. But hey, we haven't patched in 6 months, but it's okay. All the operating systems are up. So for the younger guys and women that are trying to get into this, one thing they need to know is just those soft skills. Don't talk with your face. Sometimes it's not good to always be the smartest person in the room because it's going to get taken the wrong way. So definitely the political aspect of just being in an environment. So yeah, those are some of the things I experienced.
Joseph?
Yeah, I think Robert kind of stole mine a little bit. Like, I'm still young. I am still, but I'm a director. But to get to that point, a lot of people, when I'm in a room, I will show how passionate I am about security, but then it might come off that I am, I had someone told me I'm the angry black man, right? And it's like, no, or it's like, don't get upset. Like, it's not upset. It's me trying to get through the point. You need to do this. This is how I'm protecting you from being stupid. Why are you trying to put all the customers' PII data into a public S3 bucket? Like, stop being stupid, right? It's not me being upset or, being emotional. That's the other thing I get. Stop being emotional. No, because you're going to do something that's going to get us on the front page news. So no, if it's me emotional, fine. But it's me being passionate about what I got to do, right? And that's probably one of the things that I go through all the time. So I learned to start putting things in writing, right? put it in writing saying, you know what? You said you want to do this. I told you not to. I am your security counsel. You still want to do it? There you go. It's in writing. Have fun. There you go. And once I put it in writing and say, are you taking the risk for it? Things change completely. It's like, oh, well, maybe we'll get you to do that. Like, no. You got all these VPs and SVPs to try to come after me because you thought I was being emotional. Now you explain to them that you want to still do this and you're accepting the risk. So that's mine.
No, it's like you want to be on curves, don't you? Lawrence.
I'm going to say some barriers. I kind of talk a little bit about the barriers of getting in and really not knowing that there were other areas and departments that fit, kind of my skill sets a little bit better to get me there. So I want to say cybersecurity it's really gated, and if you really are passionate and you want to get into that area, you can. You just have to work at it. There's going to be a barrier. There's all sorts of barriers. You may even know everyone, and you may be interviewing with someone you've been friends and working with, and you may not get there. So a barrier will be there, but you got to push. You got to get to your goal, and you can. And that's kind of really all I really want to say about addressing that question.
Awesome. Socks?
Yes. I've broken every rule that Robert brought up. Being the smartest in the room, going forth and like just crushing because of sheer passion, like Joseph spoke to. I mean, I get it. One of my largest issues or obstacles in the workplace is, is sometimes, hey, you don't fit the stereotype of what you look like. So why do you have this knowledge that we got these guys who went to school, they got certifications or what have you? How come you know more or you can perform better than them? And organizationally, I find that tends to drum out talent. It tends to, and that often ends up with you being surrounded with people who don't have options. And so KPI or work performance starts to go drastically down for different departments. And but I've learned over the past years and interacting with different people about how to navigate those things and how to disarm people who walk in with preconceived notions as to what my capabilities are based upon the station that they have already determined I should be in. So I work hard, and one of the ways that I'm able to overcome, and this is my evil trick, so I'm going to let you guys all in on it. First thing is, I break rule number one that Robert gave us about appearing to be too smart. I shine. I go and sign up for everything that I can to share to the point where people look at leadership, different department heads and say, hey, why is this guy not moving up at the, because I just got finished seeing him give a talk. I just got finished seeing this guy cover or write this white paper as submission. So that's evil plan number one that has been really successful. I got a 9 out of 10 kill death ratio out of that thing. So do it. And the second thing is I started investing in my, in subordinates and in whoever would listen. It was like, all right, I started helping them at such a rate that I got social proofed which makes it really hard to crush the amount of glow or aptitude or capability that you bring to the room. So I just gave you guys 2 of my secret weapons. Do it. And that's all I have to say.
Can I add something to that, O'Shea? So, Nico, I like exactly what you said.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like exactly what you said. And basically just telling your story kind of makes me think of something, you know, when you look around certain environments, like this whole platform is to get people to look like us in this environment. And Jason said something when he was like, well, they wanted me to go on the help desk. Well, that's almost like the norm in every environment that you go in. We can pull cable, we can work the help desk, you can figure a router if you're lucky, but you can't touch cyber or the cloud. And yeah, shining and being great is a way of moving forward to get that, and building up your team around you, building up a network, I think is great. So yeah, your evil plan, I'm getting ready to steal it.
Nice. Is it Steven? Steven, you there? Uh-oh. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, Mr. Mueller. I was trying to give Mr. Mueller out. It looks like he's still muted.
Oh. I hear crickets.
Yeah, yeah, you're muted.
Those are some nice crickets that are going on.
All right. Well, I guess we can. I know we got like 5 minutes left, so can we? I guess we'll take some audience questions. I don't know if Garrison, if you captured some of those that were in, or but this is the time for if you have questions for any of the panelists or participants, feel free to drop those in.
Or please, you guys, drop some more questions. I have 2 so far. So I have one question that is asking, how can an applicant reduce the effects of imposter syndrome?
I can help with this. There's 2 ways that I found is to be successful ways to get rid of imposter syndrome. One, there's a group called Toastmasters, and they just focus on public speaking. I believe in the holistic perspective of applicants and of people. So if I start to feel more confident speaking to others in an authoritative way, then sometimes that transitions into how I view myself as a valuable person, coming to apply to this job. And ultimately that might help with the interview process as well. And the second thing is if you can locate a resource that reviews like resumes and can talk to you about how to appropriately or professionally speak to your experience, that definitely transitions to you feeling more confident in what's put down in black and white on your resume, and I think that might be a way to assist with moving ahead in that way. Just my 2.
Thanks for that, Socks. Anybody else want to jump in?
I think for me, when I'm interviewing someone, don't be afraid to say you don't know, instead of trying to make something up and try to kind of dance around the answer. As soon as you start dancing around the answer, I'm going to hone in and try to dig in more. That's just my analyst thing. So don't just say, you know what, I don't know. That's probably the best answer. I've hired people because they were straight up honest and said, I really don't know that area. That's something I really haven't delved into. You know what? I'll teach you that. But be honest about what you don't know and don't bull about what you don't know. That's my advice.
Especially in cybersecurity. That's not, you're going to get the door slammed. Just Just like you said, just say, I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true. What were the other ones that were lined up, Garrison? I see a couple more. Someone just dropped another one in, Mr. Mike.
Yeah, I just actually want to read that one. So, question in chat says the panel talked about getting more into cybersecurity, but they can't happen until more of us are getting into leadership positions. For those leadership roles, what advice do you have for someone that has been in cyber for a number of years, looking to fill the void and move into a leadership role?
So you got to let people know what your goals are. You got to let your management know, and you want to create a plan around moving into leadership, especially if you've been working in cybersecurity and you've got the work history. You just have to push forward and create that plan. I don't know how most other companies work, but a lot of companies, between your leader, there's goals, there's development plans that happen throughout the year. And you just have to put it a part of your plan.
Yeah.
Push for it.
Close mouths don't get
And let
fed.
the VP, and not just your direct leader, your skip level leader, your VP, whoever, is running that particular department. You know what? I'm looking to move into leadership.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice. Yeah, like I took that a second ago. My mom used to say, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't tell people what you're trying to do, they can't read your mind. So you're gonna have to speak up and use that voice, and that's following up on available training, available, positions. Simply bluntly ask, how can I accelerate my career? How can I move up? You'd be surprised how far bluntness will take you.
Yeah, I agree.
And which I have to tell you this story because, when I moved into the cyber product strategy team, the security manager, when I started talking to him about my goals, he looked at me like with a question. Oh, you want to move into leadership? And I was like to myself, that's how they look at you sometimes. So it was just an interesting conversation. I was like, what? In my own mind, but you got to talk about it, do it.
I agree with that. So when I was an engineer, I was still doing the work. I still do a little bit every now and then. I said, you know what? I'm going to try project management. The reason why is they never understand the technical aspects of what's going on. Like somebody can have an MBA or whatever type of business degree, the PMP2, and they never understand the technical aspect of what you're going through. I think it was Joseph who mentioned you have a manager that can't even really help you through the problem. Actually, no, that was Marcus. And that happens a lot. So, when I decided to do that and make that bridge, my plan was, hey, I have both sides of it. I can speak both sides of the language. But one of my supervisors asked me, why you want to do that? I'm supposed to just sit here in my seat and do the same thing till, I decide to retire or whatever. So don't be afraid to go get it. Like O'Shea said, closed mouths don't get fed. Speak up, go out there and go get it. And when you do it, show them that you tried and true.
Regardless of what your mental thought is about how you might think that person thinks about you, if we're talking about people of color, don't let the racism play into making that attempt to let yourself be known and where you want to go. Don't let that cloud your judgment or discourage you from having those conversations with everybody.
And gentlemen, you both brought up great points, but I think something else could be considered. And as you want to transition into like leadership roles, I think it's important to understand what your financial bandwidth looks like, right? So maybe it's okay for Susan to take maybe a $4,000 pay cut from whatever she's doing, if it'll pay dividends a little bit later, if she has to play the long game. So think about your financial strategy when you go for it. I mean, a lot of the time management equals a bump in pay, but are we being realistic in what we're expecting that role to provide to us?
I agree with that. I definitely think that. One thing I would add too, make sure you understand what leadership is and what that means, right? Every day you're going to have to adjust your personality to basically be there for your team, right? Because if your team doesn't think that you're fully vested, they're not going to break their neck for you if they think you're just going to walk out on them. So, but with that being said, because I have about 30 engineers that work for me now, each and every one of them I got to deal with different. And some days it's hard. It's a mental drain all day long. So just make sure you understand what leadership is and what it's about being there for your team when you decide to do that.
Hey guys, so we're a little bit over time. I'm gonna try to get in one more question, and then
that one from Antoine is pretty good about the mindset moving from technical business manager thought process. I thought it was. I wanted to chime in on that one because it was really important.
We'll go ahead. Definitely. If you go ahead, if you could restate the question for the group.
Yeah, so, Antoine Jordan said, when finally moving into leadership position, what are some of the tips for translating that habitual technical mindset into more of a business managerial thought process? And I just, thought about our team is merged with enterprise security architecture. So where we have to tie everything that we're doing from a technical perspective to a value. So basically a business value. You have to think of, where is it making money or saving money in those processes. And that's kind of that's blank on that one. That business process has to tie back into some sort of value. That's all I wanted to say.
I think as a technical person, I'll use myself as example. In the military, as an officer, I'm expected to be pure management. Technical knowledge is a good thing, but I'm expected to be more managerial. And what helped me transition from my very hands-on technical approach was understanding the vision of the enterprise, understanding the vision of the section above me, and being able to translate and work as an intermediary between the business aspect of the company or the entity, and being able to translate that into that very technical jargon that may need to be used from time to time.
Yeah, to add to what you just said, one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of people do is as they get manager to become, or upper leadership, they become less technical. And then you start questioning whether they were ever technical, right? So I always caution people, like, one of the things that I've always done is make sure I still stay, I'm not hands on keyboard. I haven't configured a firewall in 7 years or something like that, right? I haven't I haven't done a lot of engineering in years, but I could still go in there and sit with my team and talk with them. I could talk to other engineers. I can talk to developers. I could sit there and talk across all the gamuts because I'm still doing the research. I'm still doing that stuff. I'm still doing the stuff beyond the managerial stuff and being able to apply the value to it. So I know what everybody's talking about and then putting the value to the managerial piece of it so I can still talk intelligently about it. So I think that's one of the things. As you move up, don't try not to, say, okay, well, now I'm only about budgets and everything else, because then I think that you become more into, less relevant, I would say. And I think that's a big thing, because I have people that are above me that I can say jargon to them and they have no idea what I'm saying, and I think they're basic concepts. So that's my 2 cents.
Definitely. Hey guys, we're a little bit over time, so I am going to go ahead and get ready to close off this meeting. For panelists, can you all just, if you have already, can you just drop your information in here? I know there's a lot of participants that would love to connect with you on LinkedIn and Twitter, ask some questions. And thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you panelists for giving us such a presentation. This is the start of something great, and this is our first of many. of our Men in Cyber panel, and I look forward to the next one. So thank you, guys.